I'm Brian Winnikins at the Irrigation Association and the National Groundwater Association's annual convention. Thank you to the Irrigation Association and National Groundwater Association, along with Dairyland Equipment Services. Also, Annabis Silo, the Animal Wellness Center of Buffalo Valley, and BASF, Ashley Gaussman, your representative serving Northwest Wisconsin, for sponsoring our broadcasts. I am with Inge Bisconer, and she is with Toro, and she won the Industry Achievement Award with the Irrigation Association. Inge, thanks for joining us. Well, first, congratulations.
Thank you. It's a huge honor. I mean, to be recognized by your colleagues is very, very special with so many other deserving people.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do with Toro.
Well, I'm the technical marketing and sales manager with Toro, and my role is really to help advocate for drip irrigation technology and with Toro's products in particular, of course. I also manage some technical products such as software for our customers and industry partners to use in designing drip irrigation systems. And we just launched a drip irrigation recycling service as well. But education is kind of my bag, and helping farmers become better irrigators is really my passion. I wrote a book a few years ago. Toro asked me to do that, and it's called the Toro Micro Irrigation Owner's Manual, written in layman's terms to help farmers become better drip irrigation operators, to use it to spoon feed the crop and get more yield with fewer inputs. I mean, that's the name of the game.
Now, during your awards ceremony here at the convention, you talked about situation in California with all of the different water issues that are going on in California because they are still under a drought. And you really opened up some legislators' eyes. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, last April, you'll recall that Governor Brown issued an executive order on the drought, mandating for the first time ever cuts in urban water use. And shortly thereafter, he convened a business leaders drought summit in Sacramento. And my colleague, Paul McFadden, was invited to that summit as president of the California Ag Irrigation Association. He was unable to attend and was nice enough to invite me to substitute for him. So I went to Sacramento with just a few hours' notice, went to Governor Brown's meeting, which then quickly turned into a press conference. And I had the opportunity, I kind of grabbed the opportunity to let the leadership know that, yes, the irrigation industry and the farmers have done a great job. We have 8 million irrigated acres in the state of California, and millions of acres literally have been converted to more efficient irrigation, such as drip irrigation. But we still have about 4 million flood irrigated acres, and that's low-hanging fruit. Not all of it needs to be converted, but much of it could be converted to better irrigation technology, which would at the same time make our farmers more productive, more profitable, reduce inputs, have water available for other uses, higher value uses perhaps in some situations where we don't have any water. So this was kind of not readily known, I don't think, with our leadership, that we had 8 million irrigated acres, 4 million of which was flood. 2/3 of the drip acres in the state or in the country are here in California. So we've done a great job, but there was more to do. So they were very interested and invited us to come back and share more information and educate them on what the possibilities would be for irrigating more efficiently.
Wow, and you ended up on the news, and so you actually were helping to educate folks that were living in L.A., San Francisco, San Diego, and everywhere else.
Yeah, it was kind of fun. The news tank guy said, "Did you say that there were 2/3 of the acres of drip in the whole country is here?" And I go, "Absolutely." And I pulled the report right out of my briefcase. So I think it went on the news that night because he didn't have to fact check it. It's like, here's the fact check. This is true. No, it was great that there was so much interest. And then following up, the governor invited in other leadership entities such as Karen Ross, our USDA Secretary of Ag, California Department of Secretary of Ag, and they've been very instrumental in helping fund some additional irrigation system improvements in the state, and I hope that we can continue to do more for agriculture, because there's a lot of money floating around for things like cash for grass and ripping out turf grass. And in my mind, I've done a little analysis, and I'm finding that, we could get a lot more bang for the buck if we invested in modernizing our agriculture. If we modernize our agriculture, we would not only perhaps reduce our water usage, but we would increase our food production, help farmers be more sustainable, more profitable, and just help the economy of the state. I think the figures are about every dollar we spend on saving water in landscape by such things as ripping out turf grass, I think that generates about a gallon of water. And in agriculture, for every dollar that we invest, I think we could generate almost 10 gallons of water. And yet, I think we invest more than 10 times the amount of water. I think we invest more than 10 times the amount of money into turf removal programs than we do in modernizing our ag. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit more in the Drought Summit tomorrow.
Talking with Inge Bisconer. She is the Industry Achievement Award winner here at the Irrigation Association's annual convention. She works with Toro. Now, Inge, you mentioned 2/3 of drip irrigation is in California. So let's talk about the rest of the country. And you mentioned that if we can get this technology advanced even further, increase food production. So let's talk about like where I'm from, Wisconsin or Minnesota, Nebraska, Illinois, where we have a lot of big irrigation, but that's all on the pivot system. Could this type of technology be used in our neck of the woods?
Absolutely, Eric. In the United States, there's about 5 million drip irrigated acres, and again, about 2/3 of it is in California, where there's the majority of the fruit, nut, and vegetable crops. The other drip is mostly in Florida and Texas, but there's a huge adoption rate in the Corn Belt as well. We know that subsurface, it's a subset of drip irrigation, it's called subsurface drip irrigation, can be utilized both cost effectively and just the technology works for field crops such as corn, cotton, soybeans, even alfalfa.
Really? Now, I would have thought, okay, even underneath, you've got a lot of heavy equipment going over all of that stuff. You're going to start breaking stuff, but really it can be done.
Absolutely. One of Arizona's premier farmers, Howard Wirtz, pioneered the method of using less expensive drip tape in cotton back in the late 70s and early 80s, and proved that buried drip tape under a crop like cotton could work and could be amortized over many years. Makes it cost effective. Freddie Lamb and his associates at Kansas State University have really run with that ball and have proven that drip tape is viable for over 25 years. So what this does for the farmer in the Corn Belt and anywhere that we're drought stricken or that is challenged with water resources is that we can increase the yields, incredibly, substantially, and at the same time use either the same amount of water or less water. And there's more. You also reduce the amount of labor, energy, fertilizer, other crop chemicals, and perhaps even tractor fuel and hours in the field, because this technology goes in the field, stays in the field. It's not pulled out and put back in as other technologies can.
Wow, it's fascinating. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges you see here coming up, not only in 2017, but beyond, because there are a lot of challenges. I know in western Wisconsin, we have, in a lot of areas where the rural and urban areas kind of meet up, we have the challenge of farmers needing to have irrigation and cities saying, well, we don't want to lose our water supply, or we can't afford to drill deeper wells because of the the water table being lowered because of all this irrigation. So is that one of the biggest challenges, and what else do you see down the road?
Yes, Eric, that is a huge challenge. What you're touching on is the groundwater situation, which is where, I think if I remember correctly from the groundwater keynote yesterday, is where 40% of our water for food in the world comes from. So the Ogallala aquifer, and we know in Central California we're depleting those aquifers because we haven't had rain in California. We haven't had the snowpack. We haven't had as much water from the sky recently, and so we're using stored water from millennia ago from the ground. So we have to do a better job with the limited resource that we have. So first of all, since agriculture does use much more water than urban areas, landscape, to grow our food. The farmers don't use this water themselves. It comes back to feed us, but agriculture uses the majority of the water. So we have to do a better job in growing our food with less water. But it's not just the farmers. The urbanites also need to do a better job with their landscapes. I mentioned the cash for grass and ripping out turf grass. That, in my mind, really isn't as effective as perhaps just teaching homeowners to have the right equipment, the right sprinkler nozzles, and have the right controllers, and to also operate them properly. most of the water waste is because of bad equipment and operator error. So that's a huge low-hanging fruit upgrade for the urban population. I think we also need to recycle our wastewater and put it back into the system for us to use. I'm in San Diego, and I know that we still push out our recycled water into the ocean. That's crazy. We need to recycle it and reuse it. Along the coastal regions, we need to do some desalination, possibly. But in the rural areas that don't have an opportunity for those, either large urban population for recycled water or for desalination water along the coast, we're really limited to the groundwater and what falls from the sky, and either into reservoirs or into mountain snowpack. So we have to do a better job. And it might involve changing to a different crop. The farmer may choose to use a less water consumptive crop. And a trend that I see is farmers optimizing return per acre foot, not return per acre. If I have limited water, I want to figure out how am I going to get the most productivity and the most profitability for me to stay in business with each acre foot or gallon or drop, however you want to term it, unit of water. And it may mean switching from corn to something of higher value. I know in California we're often switching from some of the field crops that we grow in California to something that will be more productive, like a vineyard. We're moving maybe out of wheat or corn or alfalfa and into a vineyard or an orchard or a vegetable crop. Now, not everybody can do that because they don't have the climate, and it's not to suggest that all field crops need to go away, but the balance just may be a little bit different. So I see a lot of that, and I see a lot of new technology, like a tsunami of technology hitting agriculture to help gather data and then, more importantly, interpret that data for decisions on the farm that will help us, better manage our farms.
Well, again, Inge, we appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Eric.
That is Inge Bisconer. She is the Industry Achievement Award winner here at the Irrigation Association's annual convention. From the Irrigation Association annual convention in Las Vegas, I'm Brian Winnikins on Rural Country 1430 WRDN.